and welcome to Futures Focus, a fantasy baseball podcast centering around all the top prospects in the game, brought to you by Prospects 1500. And we are back, baby. We are heading into the 2024. Is that right, Nate? I can't. I don't even
Believe
know.
it or not. Believe it or not, I think it is. It is.
Like we're in Back to the Future. We are heading into the 2024 season, and Prospects 1500 is back with Futures Focus. My name is Alex Sanchez. Nate Eckert here with me. We are back for season 5 or so of this podcast. Nate, this is what your second full season, I guess. Maybe third.
It is number two
full season. So it's been a while. How are you doing, man? It's been a long time.
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking, Alex. Just been enjoying the off season. Personal note: I won my big money redraft keeper league where we keep 5 keeps, and it was pretty extraordinary. I gotta say, I made a trade that cost me my first rounder coming into this year. And I made quite a few trades, but they all ended up working out. By the end of it, I had Corbin Carroll, Ronald Acuna, Bobby Witt, Devers. I mean, you name it, I had them and just rolled. I think it was a head-to-head categories league, and pretty standard as far as the categories were concerned. But after I made the trade, basically the whole second half of that season, including the playoffs, I lost 3 categories.
Oh man, yeah. You listed those names, those guys. That's a pretty stacked team.
Yeah, 3 categories, crazy. And I only lost them by like 1 or 2, and so that was a lot of fun, to say the least.
Yeah. It's good to be back. We took a long break here on the off season. That wasn't, I guess, the plan per se, but I think it's going to work out for the best. I'm feeling refreshed. I'm feeling like even more than one episode a week as we reach the preseason here. Getting back into it. I mean, it really is football. Like once football's over, I just feel like I'm ready to go.
Absolutely.
So the Super Bowl's here, of course, but I feel like I'm just like my weekends are open now, and I'm just ready to go with baseball.
For sure.
We're back. What's on the agenda today is for the next couple of episodes, we're going to go over each division with the top 50 prospects. Now, tuning in there, there's some changes to discuss with the way Prospects 1500 is run. If you remember our last episode, which it turned out to be a good season finale, I don't think we ever mentioned that it was the season finale because I don't think we planned on it. But our 100th episode, great episode, still great stuff to go over there. But Scott came on and sort of said that there's some changes coming to Prospects 1500. And one of the big ones here is sort of a group effort when it comes to these rankings. So no longer is one person in charge of rankings, but now we're having 5, sometimes 6 people in charge of compiling their rankings, top 50 still, the name still applies, but we're going to get, 5 or 6 different opinions and then sort of a consensus ranking for each team, which is unique. You don't see that too often. Maybe MLB Pipeline has, I still think, don't they do their own? I think Mayo does half and then,
I think so.
Yeah, doing a consensus here is pretty unique. You're getting guys that are all into it. I mean, Scott's doing a lot of these. Adam Green, he made the announcement it was coming on episode 100. So his son also joining us into the writing. We have, classic Tony BPS, Jeremy May
Tony
on the podcast. So we got a lot of people working together to get these lists there. So they're not going to be, I think, as different as they have been in the past. Like it took one guy really liking a prospect and then he was up, high in the rankings, but you're not going to see that as much. So it's a little bit more chalky, I think is a way to describe it without a negative way of that. So you still have the influence of if a couple of guys really like somebody, they're going to be pushed up. So it's definitely worth taking a trip down these prospects. And we're doing the NL West today. So, Padres, Dodgers are going to be pretty well covered. So we won't have the need for a guest or anybody on. But it is something new. What do you think about that, Nate? And your thoughts moving forward on some of those changes?
Yeah, I love it personally. I think it allows all of us to do basically what we want to do, which will only improve the quality of our articles, of our social media posts. We won't be, I think pigeonholed is a bad term, but we won't be restricted from talking about other players or writing about other players in lieu of only talking about our allotted teams. So I think that freedom is always a great thing, and for the creative minds that we have, I'm really looking forward to putting together some really great stuff, some stuff that the readers should be looking forward to, because now we are no longer chained to one team. We are now free at last. And I think that only
that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that in the way that you're sort of proposing that, but it is true. I think one of the big appeals of the site is the consensus ranking we do overall, like with top 200 prospects or so each time we do it. And so this sort of matches that formula in a way, I think.
Yeah.
And it definitely does allow us to write about some other teams. With the Padres, I was, and you were the Dodgers, of course.
Right.
You're lucky because the Dodgers were your favorite team. And so I'm sure you could always find something to write about.
Right.
The Padres are not my favorite team personally. And so it did feel a little bit like a chore at times to find something. And if I, because I'm following them, but I'm following my favorite team first, and then prospects in general because of dynasty teams that I have, and then the Padres. So, well, I think I managed to do it okay, and that I didn't have any like crazy wrong takes. It does make it a little bit safer when everybody's sort of chipping out, and it has a passion about, somebody else has a passion about Jackson Merrill because they got to see him. Or I'm here, watching the Quakes and a Dodgers prospect that I get to see in live. I think that allows us to do a little bit better. So let's jump right into it here. Again, we're going to go over the NL West today, and we're going to start with the best team in the NL West. That is, of course, the Arizona Diamondbacks, because they went to the World Series. So
unbelievable, right? No, it's okay. Hey, Corbin Carroll, man.
That was crazy.
I love Corbin Carroll. Needless to say.
Filthy. So I think what we'll do here is discuss the rankings of the top couple that we have here. So we'll give you the order in case you haven't checked out the article. All of these can be found on Prospects 1500. They're all out and available right now to check out. So this list was done by Scotty, Tony, BPS, Craig Bracken, who we've had on as well, Adam Green, Clint Fass, John Dodge, and Jeremy May. So that is 7 people. Let's do some math, Alex. 7 people involved in this. So right now,
first episode.
Tier 1, Jordan.
The first episode.
Yeah, right. Tier 1 is shortstop Jordan Lawler. In Tier 2, we have outfielder Drew Jones, followed by Tommy Troy, 2023 draft pick shortstop. That concludes Tier 2. We move on to Tier 3 with Yu-Min Lin, a left-handed pitcher. Number 5 is Gino Groover, and number 6, Ivan Melendez. And we'll continue on as we move forward. But I do want to discuss these guys in a little bit of detail to give everybody their fair share. So Jordan Lawler, Tier 1, I agree with that. I'm sure you agree with that too. We both are big fans of young shortstops. Jordan Lawler makes his debut last year. Wasn't the greatest debut. However, seeing this kid live, I have seen him live, and he just knows what he's doing, I think is the best way to describe what I saw from him. just a ball player. He's going to be fine. I don't care about that 31 at bat call up in September. You're getting a lot of speed from this guy. You're going to get some power, probably reverse those as he gets a little bit more mature. So something like a 15-30 this year. Maybe 15 is a little aggressive, but definitely a speedster. The only issue here with Lawlar is the playing time with the Diamondbacks and, Geraldo Perdomo, who I guess technically is an all-star. That's the guy that he sort of has to dislodge. I don't think it's going to be that difficult, but again, if there's struggles and he needs to be sent down, I think that could potentially happen. But definitely for me, a top 10-ish. I'd say definitely easy top 15 prospect in baseball. What are your thoughts on Jordan Lawlar, shortstop?
Yeah, I agree. Top 15 for sure. I also agree that go ahead and throw out the cup of coffee that he put together last year in the bigs. I mean, come on, 14 games, 31 at bats. This team was going to the World Series. Lawlar has flown through. I mean, out of high school, he was drafted in 2021 in the first round, 6th overall. So that was only 3 years ago now, almost 3 years. It doesn't feel like 3 years. It feels more like 2. But because he's only had 2 full seasons of pro baseball under his belt, and in that second full season, he ended up making his debut as a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old. So, I mean, if we thought that he was going to make an impact and do it like on the same level that they were hitting, because remember last year at the end of the season, once Arizona caught fire, it was really hard to maintain a regular spot on that roster. So I look at Lawlar's body of work, and I love everything that I've seen thus far. Like you said, Alex, he's got a lot of speed. He's got good pop. He's got a really good feel for the barrel. He barrels balls up and makes a lot of hard contact. And whether or not I think he'll stick at shortstop. He may move over to third after a while, but that's a far ways away. So you're looking at a shortstop, maybe second base, who knows, with the potential. I don't think 15 homers is aggressive, Alex. I think 25 is aggressive. But again, that all kind of is based on how many at bats he gets at the major league level. I don't know that he makes the team outright right out of spring. He may need, like a month, something like that, to catch fire. And then I hope that he continues to catch fire, because I feel like Lawlar is one of those players that's going to need that incoming confidence, as opposed to last year where he struggled right off the bat.
Agreed. I don't think we need to talk about too much Jordan Lawlar. If you're listening to this podcast, he's a very high elite prospect and very, very close to the big leagues. 2 other guys, though, to discuss. I think that some people probably need to get some information about, at least your opinion, my opinion. And we have them at number 2, number 3. Tier 2, they're the only 2 players in Tier 2. I think I agree with them. I don't know about the order, though, so I'm curious to think Tommy Troy, Drew Jones. We have Drew Jones at number 2, Tommy Troy at number 3. What do you think about that order? Would you change them up? Do you think they're Tier 2? Give me your thoughts on those 2 guys really quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alex. I think Troy should probably be number 2, only because Jones's experience at the pro level is so minute. I mean, he's only had, what is it? Let's see here. 41 games under his belt. Now, I know he was hurt a lot of the time, but Troy was a performer at Stanford. Had a lot of experience, came out of the gate last year, smoking the ball at an 843 OPS, 4 bombs, 9 steals. So, and he also had a 374 on base percentage. So, I would put Troy ahead of Jones, only because I haven't seen it yet from Jones at the pro level. Of course, his ceiling is very high, but right now I think Troy is a little bit better than Jones.
So I agree with you. I would put Troy ahead of Drew Jones, but here's the thing. I think that there's a sizable gap. I do think they're tier 2 prospects. I think they're very far behind Jordan Lawler. I'm not breaking the bank to go get Drew Jones, and I'm also not breaking the bank to get Tommy Troy. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong, and I think you're absolutely right that he deserves to be number 2. He reminds me though of another. Let's see if you can get this. Another Diamondbacks shortstop prospect who was kind of good at everything, but not
Stephen Drew.
in one thing. No, not Stephen Drew.
Oh no.
No, I don't think you're gonna get it because he never played for them really. But
oh, okay.
But a righty.
Who was he traded to?
Well, that will give it away. But
okay.
he was traded to the Braves.
Oh, Grisham?
Not quite Grisham. Grisham was it's Dansby. He reminds me of kind of a Dansby Swanson.
Yes.
You're going to get, you're not going to get an elite batting average. You're not going to get elite stolen bases. You're not going to get elite power. But this guy is going to probably play 150 games each year, and he is good at everything. He's sort of at his ceiling right now with what you're going to get. Not a lot of room for growth, but Dansby was he's been a very productive player for many years, even if he's had a couple of up and downs throughout the year. But you would certainly take Dansby Swanson's 8-year career in a heartbeat in a dynasty league, where Drew Jones also reminds me of a Braves prospect. Not as charming as one, a guy that he's going to make the big leagues because of his defense. Let's see if you can get this guy.
Yeah, Christian Pache.
Yeah, Pache, exactly. So I'm a little worried about that. The thing is, Pache had a very short leash in comparison to what I think Drew Jones is going to have.
Yeah.
They both got to the big leagues, or they both probably will get to the big leagues with their defense. But Drew's going to give every chance to succeed because he's, he's such a high pick, right? That they've so much invested with him. So, and the name and everything. So I think he's going to get a lot longer leash. So I do think he can produce, but I do get Christian Pache vibes from him in terms of he's got so much skills, but he's just never going to put it together. So I'd take a chance on him though, because like you said it, right? 41 games or whatever.
Yeah.
And
he just hasn't had enough. You just don't know,
Andrew Jones's kid, that's enough, really.
Exactly.
Egging on.
I would love to see just a healthy season from him, and then take it from there. Like in last year's first year players draft, I think that was last year's when Jones was available. Or was that?
Yes,
no, I'm sorry.
correct.
Was it last year? Yeah. Yes.
Well, this year. Last year's draft, this year's first player draft, if you're in leagues, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, I would have taken him if I had that high of a pick. I didn't, but only because his ceiling is so high, But we just haven't seen anything from him yet. So
yeah. And then you're going to see this all the time because it was so close between him and Jackson Holiday, and Jackson Holiday is so much clearer of a guy that people are going to just be down on Drew Jones right now. I don't know. I think he's worth a gamble on, because you're going to get him for cheap. Probably if he's going to blow up, right, and become a superstar, this is the cheapest you can ever.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because say he comes out, has a good first month this year. Oh my God. His stock is going to go sky high, as it should. But yeah, your best bet is to get Drew Jones right now.
Yeah. Okay. After that, we have the tier 3. To be honest, I don't know. What do you think about Yu-Min Lin? I actually think he's probably closer to Tommy Troy and Drew Jones than those two are to Jordan Lawler. Is that too crazy to think of? I really like Yu-Min Lin.
No, I don't think it's too crazy. I think that they did a good job of separating Jones and Troy, and then putting Yumin immediately after them, but also putting him at tier 3. I like him too. I'm not like bonkers over him, you know.
Yeah. You're right.
So
the ceiling's pretty low. We're talking about
mhm.
a 5'11", 160 lefty that throws 90 miles per hour. So I suppose the ceiling's not great, but the pitchability certainly is there right now as well.
Yes.
What about Gino Grover? I kind of like this guy too. We have him written up as a high contact hitter with good power. Coming out of North Carolina State, second round of the 2023 draft. What are your thoughts on Gino? Pretty, 5 is pretty aggressive for this guy. I don't know if you're going to see him as high. I don't know what he is on Pipeline, but I feel like that's pretty high. But I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the rest of the crew that the Diamondbacks have, maybe I would put AJ Vukovich a little bit higher up there. I like Jack Hurley a lot also. Groover, he's young. He was drafted last year, whatever you want to call it, 2023 in the second round, and he's got good hands and a really good hit tool. Let's see, his OPS was 743 in his cup of coffee. He got, it was a pretty big cup of coffee. He had 27 games played, 99 at bats. But again, it's his first year, so there's only so much you can do and say about it. However, he was promoted all the way up to single A advanced, so that says something that they're confident in him. And they signed him for, what was it? It was exactly at the slot, 1.783 mil. So he reminds me of like a Cam Collier type, where you're going to get really good bat to ball skills. And he's going to be a hitter no matter what. I don't think that he's going to be running. I don't think he's going to be fielding a whole lot. He's going to be a corner infielder, either first or third, and I think he's going to hit well.
And then if we were talking about this system a few years ago, Christian Robinson would definitely be discussed. He was the number one prospect, I think, even on our lists a few years ago. Obviously had some legal troubles. It seems to be behind him now. Just so everybody kind of knows, he got all the way up to Double-A last year, hitting around the 270s if you want to average them all out, up to about 14 homers and 20 plus stolen bases. Now he's 22 years old right now. What do you think about Robinson and his future going forward?
What I know is that Robinson, a lot like Drew Jones, can be bought for not a whole lot, unless you're listening to this podcast right now. Because in my opinion, Robinson's tools were and I believe still are. Well, I don't think there's any doubt. They're there. They are still there. And his talent will never be in question. His ceiling is probably pretty close to Drew Jones. And 23, 22, I mean, come on. This guy has been a prospect for what feels like a decade, right? But he goes through some legal stuff, and it looks like he's come back out on top. I mean, he had last year through 4 levels, 283 average, 382 on base percentage, which is really nice to see, because with Robinson, when he was younger, the big question was, will he be able to make enough contact? Well, the 382 on base percentage, there you go. 914 OPS, like you said, Alex, 14 bombs, 23 steals. So he's still got a little athleticism left in him. So, hey, you could give away, say, like, I don't know, if you were fat and pitching like Frank Mazzucato or some young gun for Robinson, and you could really, really make out, if everything goes according to plan, you could really make out with a monster here.
After that, I think some of the names we've sort of mentioned in passing are worth just a quick mention again. Ivan Melendez, huge power. Is he going to hit enough? I kind of like to invest in these guys. I feel like power gets you to the big league, so it's not something I would pay a lot for, but he's an interesting name. You mentioned Jack Hurley, who is sort of a toolsy outfielder. There's actually a lot of these guys in the coming weeks that you may not have heard about prior to this last season, but all of a sudden you take a look at their stats and stuff like that, and there's a lot of these tooled up outfielders that are getting into Double-A right now. But Jack Hurley reminds me of a lot of those guys that we'll be talking about. You mentioned AJ Vukovic, who again seems to be around, has been around forever.
Forever.
He's coming up close. After that, there's some other major league guys that are interesting. Dominic Fletcher and who's the other name? Bryce Jarvis, Justin Martinez, the guys that have already made their debut. And so anybody else that kind of catches your eye that I haven't mentioned, that just a quick sentence or two?
Sure. I like Tristan English. He went to college at Georgia Tech. He's now 26, but last year he really put it all together. 300 average, 390 on base percentage, 548 slug. That's over 387 at bats, where he put up 23 bombs, 93 ribs, and let's say a 1-to-2 walk to strikeout ratio. Not bad.
Yeah, good call. It's not the deepest system, little top heavy, a couple of guys there, but you know what? I was thinking about this earlier today. It does sort of remind me of it's like the Orioles light, if you kind of think about it, right? They have like an elite prospect on the rise. They're already sort of a World Series contender.
Yep.
And there's a couple other guys that are going to be helping up real quick with some other guys. And I don't know where they're all going to play is another issue too. Because this just kind of reminds me a little bit of the Orioles. So it's good to be a Diamondbacks fan, bad to be a Dodgers fan. But hey, let's go talk about the Dodgers after the break. We're going to take a short break here. And we'll be right back discussing the rest of the NL West Top 50 process.
Prime Big Deal Days is here with exclusive savings just for Prime members.
Woohoo!
Involuntary deal squeals can happen, like the deal on travel mug squeal. The deal on a new blender squeal.
Yeah!
Or the classic deal on electric toothbrushes squeal.
Oh, yeah! Woo!
Save big on electronics, fashion, and more this Prime Big Deal Days. On now.
And we are back discussing NL West Top 50 prospects. We are moving on to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And Nate, I know that's your area of expertise, so I'm going to go ahead and sort of give you the floor here just to give you an idea of where we're at with Prospects 1500, because if I'm not mistaken, you actually didn't have a say in the rankings here with that. Is that right?
No, I did not. They put it together, and when I asked about it, Scott said, "Actually, Nate, I'm sorry, we've already got it ready to publish." Yeah. So I was a few days late, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been paying very close attention, and that also doesn't mean that I'm not excited for our brand new 2024 prospect farm system.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to see your take on this. I actually like that. I think in the future I'm going to definitely have a say in it, but I did want to see what other people thought. And to be honest, it wasn't far off from mine, at least my Padres, because I didn't put my rankings in for the Padres either, but it was really close to what I thought. So
yeah.
Yes. Just in case you haven't read the list here, we have like fake prospect number 1 here in Yamamoto for the Dodgers. We don't need to talk about him. Well, I guess we could talk about him. We will. We will.
Oh, yeah.
We will.
People
Yeah,
will
he's
want
the-
to learn about him.
Yeah. Sure, for
Yes.
sure. So he is number one in tier one all by himself. In tier two, Dalton Rushing, followed by Andy Pages, Josue De Paula, Diego Cartaya make up tier two. Tier three did have Michael Bush. Unfortunately, he no longer is in the system. Well, not unfortunately for him. He's been waiting to get out of the system.
Not
for
unfortunately.
years.
Yeah. And we did well.
Gavin's-
We did
yeah.
well, but we'll get into
Yeah,
that.
Gavin Stone at 7, Nick Frasso at 8, Kyle Hurt at 9. 3 of my favorite underrated pitching prospects you can get for cheap. Trey Sweeney, Landon Knack, and might as well go all the way here. Joandre Vargas and River Ryan close out tier 3. So, first of all, anything that stands out to you as something that you may have disagree with, or does this list look pretty good for you?
They did a good job. I was a lot disappointed with Gavin Stone last year. I hope he turns things around. His stuff is incredible, and he looked like the next great thing. But now he's 25, and if he puts together another season of subpar stuff, it's gonna start. He's gonna start getting older faster, and I don't want to see that. I know the Dodgers do not want to see that. And I don't think that. I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm concerned a bit about Stone. With that said, however, the rest of our pitching, our prospects at least, they look quite good. What is not mentioned in this article, and I want to share with everyone, is that Jackson Ferris, the former let's see here, first rounder, I believe, or second rounder from the Cubs circa 2022. One second here. Sorry, excuse me. Yes.
2022nd, 47th overall pick from the Cubs.
There he is. Thank you much. Thank you much. So
6'4" lefty, by the way.
Yeah, 6'4" lefty. He's pretty darn projectable. Comes from IMG Academy, which in my opinion is like a JUCO team or like maybe a D2 squad. They're that good at developing young studs. I mean, if you go to IMG in high school, I'll sign you up on my team for sure. He's only 20 years old. Last year was his first taste of professional baseball because he had Tommy John coming into the draft. The Cubs still took him and signed him for right over $3 million. So they believed in him, and the Dodgers made that trade for Michael Bush and one other prospect, and Ferris now is coming on over to the Dodgers. So what I love about Ferris is that he's 6'4", 195. He's polished. He's got a fantastic fastball, which you don't usually hear about with these really projectable lefties. Usually it's like their breaking stuff that gets all the credit, perhaps a changeup. But with Ferris, he has a great fastball, and it rises from that 6'4" arm slot that he has. It's nice and flat, but the fastball has a nice rise to it. So he also has a hammer 12-6 curveball that he loves to throw, and he has a developing changeup that has good late fade. Now, last year in his first taste of pro ball, 3.38 ERA, 56 innings, only 35 hits, gave up one solo home run. I don't know if it was a solo shot or not, but it was one singular home run last year. 77 strikeouts over 56 innings with an opponent's average of 179 and a whip of 121. Now, there's a comp that MLB Pipeline gives, and that's Blake Snell, except Ferris has better stuff and is perhaps more polished than Snell at this point in his career. I love that comp. Absolutely adore that comp. And I think Ferris is only going to get better now that he's with the Dodgers. The Cubs aren't exactly known for, their pitching development. So go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
No, it was a solo home run. I just happened to.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Well,
he gave up 1 run, and it was a home run in his August 9th start. Anyway, it just makes me sound super smart that I happen to know that right now.
Yes, it does.
Now, he was traded for Michael Busch, essentially.
Yes.
I mean, there was Almonte was going in that deal, and Zahir Hope is the other guy. But
Mhm.
To me, I already said it. So to me, I do think that he fits in nicely where Michael Busch was on our list at number 6. To be honest, I would have Gavin Stone a little bit higher than this. I think it's a fantastic buy low opportunity on Gavin Stone. Finished the year strong. I still love that changeup. We've had this discussion. Like a good changeup just tied me up in knots and ended my baseball career. So I have a soft spot for that, and he has one of the best in the minor leagues. I just feel like he's going to figure it out. I would take him ahead of like most of these guys, to be honest. Definitely ahead of Pages, DePaula, and Cartaya. I don't know if I would take him ahead of rushing. Certainly not Yamamoto. But what do you think about putting in Ferris for Michael Busch at number 6?
I love that. I'd actually, no, Cartaya is a little too young, and AA always has a bit of a, what's the word? A bit of wiggle room that some
learning curve, I think.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Yeah. So, I like Ferris at 6 a lot. I think Ferris, other than Yamamoto, could very well be their best pitching prospect right now. And that's really exciting because we all know that Michael Busch was never going to get a chance to be an everyday player for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And, thank God he got to go to the Cubs because now he'll be able to really show his stuff. And he is, let's not get it twisted, this guy is a bona fide stud. So I think in the end, it was a win-win for both teams because the Dodgers, we could project Ferris into being like a potential number 2 ceiling, maybe even a number 1 if we're getting crazy. And Busch gets to go to Chicago and, show his stuff off. So I think it's a great deal, and it only improved our overall system. It's hard to take away from such a great hitter, but because he wasn't going to get a shot with us at the big league level, I love this trade.
So let's move up to tier 1 and go to Yoshiro Yamamoto, the Japanese import that we got to have a very nice preview in the World Baseball Classic, where I think a lot of people got to see just how good he is. I think there's no doubt it's so unfair to call him a prospect. I guess the only question that remains is where do you take him in your first year player drafts? And I know the generic answer, it depends on your team and everything like that. But let's throw that all out the window right now. I don't think you're taking Langford. You're not taking him over Langford. You agree with that?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't know. I love Langford. I really do. But Yamamoto is filthy. So
I'm taking Langford every day of the week for sure.
Are you taking Langford number 1 overall then?
The build of my team is. Yeah.
Is that what?
So you're thinking about it basically. It sounds like if you are going for it this year, you're going. Which it's hard to get the number 1 pick in a draft where you're also going to go for it the next year. So I don't know how relevant that is.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Wyatt Langford's like, you have to take him.
Oh, I'm
I
right
thought
there
the
with
question.
I'm right there with you as far
Okay.
as Langford is concerned. I love Wyatt Langford. Everything about him. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, everybody does.
Love.
He's the hot
Yeah,
thing right now.
he's
So
he's
it
a
really
beast.
does. It does come down to Dylan Cruz or Yamamoto. What do you think about that?
I take Yamamoto over Cruz.
I think I'd still take Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess it depends on sort of who you like next. But Skeens or Yamamoto?
Ooh. Ay, Chihuahua. Yeah,
For
again,
me, that's where it gets tough. That's where it gets
yeah,
tough.
that you got to start looking at your team and such, because really it's a coin toss. I mean, really and truly. I hope that Pittsburgh doesn't rush him, because that's, what everybody wants them to do. But he's the best pitching prospect out of college since Steven Strasburg Yamamoto. So, but Yamamoto, if you don't mind, Alex, I could just explain a little bit to everyone out there if they aren't too well read up on him or whatever. If you happen to have one of the top 3 or 4 picks in your first year player draft coming up, this is what you would be getting. Yamamoto is undersized by today's MLB standards, but it's 5'10", 176 pounds. But with that, he's very athletic. He's very strong in his frame, and he's got a very powerful arsenal. He throws a fastball that will live right around 95, 96. He could get it up to 99, and his delivery is effortless. I'm talking like, doesn't even look like he's going to throw the ball past 60 miles an hour. It looks that easy, and then the ball just explodes off of his hand. Everything moves. He commands everything in every quadrant that you could possibly imagine, and that's just his fastball. His best secondary is without question his splitter. It goes 88 to 91, and it drops right off the table, or it could drop a little off the table, or it can do whatever he wants it to do. And what I have written down here in my notes is that he could be like a strikeout pitcher only because his stuff is that good, but I like him more as what Kodai Senga ended up finding out halfway through the season last year, that is, you can induce weak contact, either, be it a pop fly or a ground out for, out number 3, and find yourself walking back into the dugout all the same. So it's going to be interesting to see if he tries overpowering all these hitters, or if he tries to get a lot of weak contact. On top of the disgusting splitter, he has a 76 to 78 mile an hour curve. It's a hammer. He throws it 12 to 6 with incredible amount of spin. And then last but not least, he has a low 90s cutter / small slider that he can spot anywhere he wants. So just imagine somebody who has these 4 above average pitches with, in my opinion, his best secondary is his best pitch. That's that splitter. I think a lot of hitters are going to get tied up because he can throw that curveball to lefties and righties. And he's just got a really good feel for pitching, period. I really like him a lot.
All right, fair enough. I think that you're probably convincing me that he should go number 2 overall. I think that you take Langford, and then Yamamoto.
Yep.
And if you wanted to take Cruz, I wouldn't get mad at you. If you wanted to take
Right.
Skeens, I wouldn't get mad at you. Skeens is so fun. I think he's going to be great too.
He's a monster.
Yeah. So my favorite thing to do, and this is unrelated to the Dodgers, but is to get the 5th or 6th pick in drafts and do what you can. So I did a trade where I moved from 11 to 7, and I gave up like Starling Marte as well. Just because I think any of these top 6 or 7 guys, I'll be very, very happy with. And after that, I think there's a big drop off of like after the first 7 is where I'm like,
yeah,
there's a big drop off.
And keep in mind, just for everyone out there, that this year's draft, this year's first year players draft is gonna be enormous, just like the 2023 draft was, period, because of the COVID year, where they only had 5 total rounds when they typically have, what is it, 50 or 40, something like that, some ridiculous number. I think it's 30, but regardless, it doesn't matter. All of those players who were in college were then awarded another 3 years of eligibility because of that.
Yep.
And then the high schoolers who weren't drafted, of course, ended up going to college and got the seasoning that they need. So, very exciting stuff for this upcoming draft.
Yeah, and we'll have a whole episode on that as well.
Can't wait.
Yeah, because you're absolutely right. Like the amount of high schoolers when it comes to this is very low. I mean, you have Jenkins and you have
Clark.
Max Clark was the other big one, yeah. But I mean, there's a bunch of just crazy good guys that are like Wyatt Langford's basically gonna be up right away, and Paul Skeen's gonna be right up away. Dylan Cruz is probably gonna be up away. So good stuff to go over at a later podcast. But let's get back to the Dodgers here and finish them off so we can kind of move on to these other teams. So Yamamoto, not really a prospect, but he's going to be great right away. So if you want to treat him like one, he's definitely elite. I agree there's no other tier 1 players anymore. The system is good. Like there's no doubt the Dodgers know what they're doing, but I'm not as excited as I have been for this system. I think Diego Cartaya, which you mentioned, his progress is, not going exactly how he hoped. He had a kind of a disaster.
Yes, terrible 2023.
Yeah. Still like him a lot though. Josue De Paula also had a lot of hype. Kind of didn't show us the power we were looking for, despite the build and stuff like that. So a little bit of a disappointing here. Andy Pages is sort of like the lone remaining guy that didn't get a chance to come up and is, I still like him. I think he's going to be a decent contributor. Dalton Rushing, we've talked about him a bit on this podcast as well. Another catcher-ish player. Probably going to move off of that for some time. I mean, there's so many guys to just talk about. You can't go wrong with just investing in these guys because they seem to all make it up. And then if not, they sort of turn into Ryan Pepio and get traded to another team where they're going to play, or Michael Busch. And all of a sudden now those two guys, their stock is up even higher than they were with the Dodgers. So
absolutely.
It does make sense to invest in these guys and buy low, I think is a good idea as well. Is there anybody else that just speaks to you? I think we got to do some justice to the other teams. We're gonna
sure.
Stuck on the Dodgers, which is fair. I mean, I get it, but
just real quick regarding De Paula, Alex. He started the season last year's first taste of full season ball as a 17-year-old. He ended up hitting 284, and his on-base percentage was 396. No, he did not show the power that we had expected. But for an 18-year-old in full season baseball for the first time in his life, he played in 74 games last year. The year before that, in the rookie league, he played in 53 games as a 16-year-old or 17-year-old when the season began. So what my saying is, and that is, the power will come. if you've got
that's true.
if you've got the frame and you've got the bat to ball skills and you've got everything that points to you making good contact, hard contact, they will teach you how to loft the ball, believe you me. And he's only going to get stronger. Let's not forget that he is 18 years old. So I think DePaula's ceiling is still sky high, like rocket, different galaxy high. But yeah, he didn't have the power, which, it is what it is. But I think it'll come for sure.
All right, let's move on here to the Padres. Sort of my area of expertise. The Padres system, all of a sudden, to me, is getting to be pretty exciting. They obviously had a disaster in the major league level last year. Did not go according to plan. Juan Soto is out. Many others were also dealt. And in come a couple of guys, and some others took some big steps. I think that was a key to the Padres system, was guys taking remarkable steps to become legitimate prospects. When we talk about Graham Pauley, we talk about Jacob Marcy. These are Samuel Zavala as well. Guys that I was hoping would take the next step actually did take the next step. Perhaps no better of an example than Ethan Salas, who is number one. 17-year-old catcher in Double-A, which is just a sentence I never thought I would say. He is in Tier 1. Following him at Tier 2 is Jackson Merrill. Number 3, Robbie Snelling, a left-handed pitcher. Number 4, Drew Thorpe, the right-hander that comes over from the Yankees in the Juan Soto deal. Right-handed pitcher Dylan Lesko comes in at number 5, a guy that is coming off of injury. And finally, we got to see him a little bit in 2023. We have in Tier 3 Samuel Zavala, followed by Iro Iriarte, Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, Dylan Head, former
your boy.
Dylan Head, a former son of a major leaguer. Randy Vasquez also coming over in the Yankees deal at number 11. So, first of all, the thing that sticks out to me is Jackson Merrill being in Tier 2.
Yeah.
Scott did this write-up and said he's borderline on the website. And to be honest, I do agree with that. There's days where I'll wake up and I'll say he's definitely Tier 1. And then there's days where I'm like, you know what? Is he ever going to be an all-star? I don't know. But at the end of the day, the progress that he's been making is giving me very, very high hopes that he will be a very all-star-ish type of player. The power finally came. If you read any of the write-ups that I did since 2021, I was just always waiting for the power. And in 2023, 15 home runs while maintaining a decent average certainly is encouraging. The thing is, fantasy-wise, it's sort of like that Tommy Troy we were talking about in that, I don't think 30 homers, definitely not 30 stolen bases. He's probably not a 300 hitter, but he's not going to do anything poorly. And when this team gets going, the runs should be there. It just should be a nice player. And I bet that's an all-star once or twice. So to me, a Tier 1 player, I do agree. Ethan Salas is like turning into this generational talent right in front of our eyes, which is really fun to see. Again, fantasy-wise, though, if he stays at catcher, I'm not as excited. And I think he's so good behind the plate that he might stay behind catcher for a long time. A lot of catchers, they come up, Bryce Harper, Carlos Delgado. These guys were catchers to start, and then obviously they got off of it and became megastars. I don't know if that's happening with Salas. I think he's going to probably stay there. Play, which makes his fantasy profile a little less encouraging in terms of like, I'm going to shell out everything I can to get him. But you just don't see 17-year-olds in Double-A like ever, let alone catchers. I mean, I think what is it? Adrian Beltre is the last one to do that.
He just got elected into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So you just have to go ahead and jump on the train here. The ETA isn't even a problem. I think in my write-up, you might not see him until 2030, but like, which makes okay. So that makes it that would be like when he's 21.
Right, yeah. No, I know. That's why I'm laughing,
pitchers.
is because it's crazy. It's nuts, because when you did that write-up, he was 16, and it really wasn't that big of a. I mean, that was pretty accurate. But now we're looking, what, next year?
Yeah, next year.
What?
So
You
you have to put him. I mean, this just doesn't happen. You're gonna look silly. Like, I would rather put him in tier 1 at this point than not put him in tier 1 and then have him just become a mega star, because like nobody can ever fault you for putting him in tier 1 right now.
No, absolutely
So
not.
those two I would probably have, Merrill and Salas. After that, I don't even know. I think, Snelling, Thorpe, and Lesko are good tier 2-ish players. Probably Zavala would get in tier 2 for me as well, if I'm being honest. And then after that, I do like, I like Graham Pauley a lot. He reminds me of, we talked about Hurley for the Diamondbacks. There's a couple other guys that I'm going to mention in the coming weeks. Jacob Melton, Blake Dunn. These are guys that just blew up and were not even close to top 300 guys overall. And now, Graham Pauley's is fringe top 100. And, if you take a look, 23 homers, 22 stolen bases, all the way up to AA. Just does everything really, really well. 308 average, just a stud at third base. So, to be honest, I like Graham Pauley a little bit more than a few of those other guys. I might even put him in tier 2. So, Drew Thorpe, another guy. Don't get crazy with Thorpe. Just, I think when you get traded for these superstars, people get excited and they're like, well, he's got to be great. And I do think that he's good. The ceiling isn't high with the Drew Thorpe, but the floor is very high. So take that for what you will. He's probably debuting this year as well. Robbie Snelling is the guy you probably want to go for with a pitcher in this organization as a 20-year-old lefty. He's made huge strides, and very excited to see what he does. Other than that, after kind of the Graham Pauley, I think it does drop off a little bit. I'm not super excited about tier 4 with Martorella and Mazur and Bush Jr., Eggy Rosario. So not worth getting into too much detail there. But anything else you want to mention? I kind of flew through the Padres there to give us a chance to talk about these last two teams, but it's an exciting system now, and there's some guys here for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I love Robbie Snelling and Dylan Lesko. I love both of those guys. Snelling especially, just because he's such a big-bodied lefty, 6'3", 210. And he came out of high school in 2022, and last year he made it all the way up to AA, where he made 4 starts and had a 1.56 ERA, a 1.90 opponent's average, with 17 1/3 innings pitched, 19 strikeouts. His whip and his control is it leaves a little to be desired, but again, he's 20, and last year was his first full season as a pro. So I like Robbie Snelling a lot. And Lesko also got his first taste of pro baseball last year, coming off of all sorts of different injuries. And you can't really look at his year-long numbers because they're not that great. But toward the end of last season, for example, his second to last start, he went 5 innings, only gave up 1 hit, had 9 Ks, did have 3 walks, but you could see how nasty his stuff actually is. So he's an exciting young right-handed pitcher also for the Padres. And I hate it. I hate it so much because, I hate the Padres, but their pitching prospects with Snelling, Lesko, Thorpe. I like Mazur also, or Mazur. So there's a lot of things to be excited about if you're a Padres fan. If you're a Dodgers fan, you hate every last word that I just got done saying.
Now, another name we should mention that you will not find on our list here at Prospects 1500. This came out. Try to find the date here that this came out. January 4th, and this guy signed January 15th, and that's Leo DeVries. He is a 17-year-old shortstop that signed for $4.2 million, and he is a very, very highly thought of international prospect. Some claiming one of the best out of the last couple of years overall. So he has a long way to go. So did Ethan Salas, though, however. And so remember, the Padres have done really well in this area in the last couple of years. So do not be afraid to jump on him in first-year player drafts this year. So, don't take him over Matt Shaw and Tommy Troy and even Max Clark and those types of guys. But after that, at 12, 13, 14, I bet you he falls in a majority of leagues. And you'll have to wait, but I would much rather have him than a lot of the other guys that people are going to probably pick ahead of him. So be on the lookout if you're in the teens for that name, Leo DeVries, shortstop, 17 years old. We have, there's no stats or anything yet, but a guy that certainly has potential. Roderick Arias he jumps out to me as a guy that had a lot of hype and then people forgot about him, and he's kind of making his way up top 100 charts right now. And we'll get to him when we get to the Yankees, but definitely a name we should mention. And that kind of wraps up the Padres. So let's move on to the Colorado Rockies. Let's go.
The
Rockies.
The Rockies. So, that's right. The Rockies.
So, of course, the Rockies were always going to appeal to me as a prospector when you can tell me that half of their games are going to be played at Coors Field. It's just so tempting to go after that, and yet we haven't really seen it play out in the last couple of years. So forever it means. This list that you can find on Prospects 1500. No tier 1 players. I think there's some people out there that might put Adele Almador in that tier. I'm not super on board having him in tier 1. I could be convinced for sure, but yeah. I mean, here's the thing. What's the last tier 1 prospect for the Rockies that's panned out? I mean, I guess that's the question, right?
Todd Helton.
So, if you're on the fence, then you almost by default have to lean to tier 2. And so I get that. So Adele Almador, shortstop, comes in at number 1 on our rankings. Yanquiel Fernandez comes in at number 2, power hitting outfielder. Number 3, Sterling Thompson, one of those guys, 5-tool outfielders that is going to be a big theme here going on the next couple of weeks. Comes in at number 3. We move to tier 3, which is Chase Delander, Jordan Beck, and Zach Veen at 4, 5, 6. Diane Jorge at number 7. Hunter Goodman, a catcher, kind of, at number 8. And then Benny Montgomery, who is everybody's darling, at number 9. Rounds out tier 3. So, first of all, your thoughts on the system, the tiers, and kind of the order that you see there.
Yeah. With the Rockies, it's tough, right? I mean, in order to win, you have to pitch. And it just seems impossible for any pitcher to ever have any sort of actual career in Colorado, which really starts to beg the question, I watch a lot of Dodgers games, and every time they go to Colorado, I see maybe, 5,000, 8,000 people in the stands. Now, I could be mistaken, but it just feels like that stadium, which is enormous, by the way. I've been there. It's huge. It just feels like it's it's empty like almost every time I watch games there. And it's hard. It's really hard when you just can't pitch. So with that said, we're not going to be talking about very many pitchers going forward. I mean, Benny Montgomery used to be a two-way, but they're definitely sticking him with the offense. They did take Chase Dollander in the 2023 MLB draft. I was there in Seattle when he was taken. Now, he wasn't, along with a lot of the players this year, whatever. He wasn't there. And my question was going to be for him, how excited were you before the draft? And how excited, if that's even the word to use, are you now that you are a Rocky? But
Jesus.
Lo and behold, he wasn't there, so I couldn't ask him. But I'm sure he's listening now. So, Chase, how are you feeling about the old Rocky Coors Field, dichotomy? Can't be feeling too good about it. But if anybody's got the stuff to, just maul his way through, it would be Dollander. I mean, he's filthy. But again, who knows what's going to happen. You know who I do like a lot, and I like the little 7th ranking here is Dion Jorge, Cuban defector. He's 20 years old. He is 6'3", 170. But he's going to add muscle. He's Cuban. I mean, how many Cuban baseball players can you name that don't eventually end up growing into power? He's 20 years old. Probably said that 3 times already. And last year, he hit 306 with a 375 on base percentage, which was the most encouraging stat for me because when you're 6'3", and you're 20 years old, you usually don't have the greatest hand-eye coordination, but this kid obviously does because he's good enough to stick at short, fielding-wise. And so long as he comes along mature, physically in his maturity, I don't see any reason why this kid can't be the next big thing for Colorado at shortstop. I know that that's pretty crowded there, but so long as you can hit, you'll get up there eventually and get a spot. So I think the guys did a really good job on the rankings. Benny Montgomery, I'm surprised to see, is only 21 years old now. Still, again, another kid that feels like he's been in there forever. But he's only 21, so he could still figure things out. Another one is Drew Romo, who I was big on before. Still, I'm a believer in Romo. I don't think he's going to be like a perennial all-star or anything, but I think he could be an above-average starter. Veen is obviously the biggest question mark for me. I mean, his on-base percentage last year was 309. I just don't know what to make of it, other than the fact that when certain players hit AA, it's like just this wall made of diamond. You can't even begin to imagine breaking through it. And Veen has had a lot of AA at bats going back to 2 years ago, and he just has not broken through and hasn't even come close to it. So we'll see how all this goes. Now he's hurt also, so that can't help. But apparently he's supposed to be fully healthy for spring training, so we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Veen has been seemingly a different prototype of player every year for the last couple of years, so he's quite interesting to see. Jordan Beck, I think, is another guy that is very alluring for fantasy. He's super power, good defensive outfielder, which you need to be in Coors. You can't be a plotter, which makes me a little nervous about Fernandez. But with the DH, certainly can be in something. But you got to catch some ground out there in the outfield. So Here's another guy that sort of just caught my attention recently. He's number 12 on the list. He had a debut last year of, I don't know, about 50 games or so, 7 home runs, 13 stolen bases, can play all over the infield and outfield and hit 340, 350 in the debut. That's Cole Carrig. He is a 2023 draft 65th overall, a guy that is quite interesting. Switch hitter as well. I'm very interested in this guy. I'm getting to know him the last couple of days here as I've kind of gotten down. He's super arm as well as in the infield. Hit triple digits on throws from the infield and the outfield. So like this guy can literally do everything on the diamond, and he's quite exciting. So I wouldn't forget about him as well in your first year player drafts. In the low 20s, you could probably snag him up there. Maybe falls to you, but I think you hit most of the things. I'm not going to be investing in deep prospects in the Colorado Rockies anytime soon until I'm getting proven wrong. It just hasn't worked out. No offense to
Jaden Hill.
Who's that? Sean Bouchard is another guy that came up, and who's the other guy? I don't know. There's been a lot of guys that are like good for a second and then just sort of Montero.
Garrett Hampson.
Yeah, Hampson, McMahon. McMahon, is it McMahon? Ryan McMahon, right?
Yeah, McMahon.
Brandon Rogers. Like these guys just get okay and then they're just never good. So I'm not going to worry about, after probably, to be honest, after 5 or 6 in the system. So let's go ahead and try to, Giants, right? I know you don't like the Giants.
Yeah, good old Giants.
My wife is a Giants fan, so I don't want to. Yes, she is. She's from there, so I don't want to stiff them, but we are kind of running low on time here. So let's go ahead and jump through the Giants here, and I'll go ahead.
Yes.
Our ad is playing on our website. How about that? Stop it.
Yeah. Don't mind the ads, everybody.
There's our ad on our website that just started playing. It's never happened to me once ever. Okay. Well, I guess Sprays, Hims, whatever that is. All right, they're sponsoring the podcast. I'm trying to click on it, but the ad is like forcing me.
Yes.
To click on this. What is this happening? Okay.
Oh, Scott's getting paid under the table, obviously.
Literally never had this problem. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, there you go, Giants. You're playing again. Okay. Stop it. Look at that. What is happening? I'm trying to click on the Giants.
It's the Giants.
I can't get to them.
It's the Giants.
I have to go to the other side. Okay, I got it. All right. So no one's listening at this point anyway. But Tier one is Kyle Harrison. You know what? Everybody's so on board this Kyle Harrison train. I'm still not putting him in tier 1 yet. But, tier 2, Carson Weisenheim. Jung-Hoo Lee comes in at number 3, another international side. It's going to be so interesting in these first-year player drafts because I guarantee you there's one guy in your league that's going to have like the 5th or 6th pick, and he's going to pick either Lee or he's going to pick Imanga or those are and then Yamamoto will be gone, but one of those guys is going to pick those two because they're ready to go in the big leagues right now, and they're going to pass on guys that are going to be better down the line. So just that's going to happen. Don't do that, okay? Because Lee and Imanga are just kind of above average players at best. But,
right.
Maybe I'm wrong. After that, Rainier Arias at number 4 in tier 3. Marco Luciano, number 5.
Your very favorite, Alex.
We both have loved him for a while. Bryce Eldridge.
Don't group me in there with you.
You never liked Luciano? Come on, you talk
no.
Still only 22. Labeled as a shortstop still. I find that interesting. Bryce, we're getting crazy here at the end. Okay, so Bryce Eldridge, one of the two-way players, quite interesting in number 6. Reggie Crawford, at another two-way player at number
Another
7.
two-way.
They
Mhm.
love their two-way players.
They
Grant
do.
McCray, been around forever, it seems like, is number 8. Walker Martin, who I really like. I think he might deserve
Good
to be
name.
higher.
Good
Yeah, good
name.
baseball name there. Hayden
Mhm.
Birdsong, if we're talking about good names, that's a cool name.
Even better.
Um,
Even better
yeah,
name.
yeah. I think Birdsong at number 10 is actually a bit low. Mason Black at 11 and Wade Meckler at 12, an outfielder. After that, it's there really is not a lot to discuss.
It's the
as far as,
Giants.
like,
It's the Giants.
yeah. So what do you think? Kyle Harrison, is he tier 1 for you? Let's go quickly on this.
He is. He is.
Fair enough.
He was one of the pitchers that brought me home the championship in that the aforementioned league I was talking about that I won. I picked him up probably a couple weeks before the championship, and he came through with a very pivotal start for me. So I was a believer on Harrison before I was, yeah. So I like him.
You know, in the ballpark helps, and you get to, also.
Oh
get to
yeah, for sure.
San Diego and LA, two other good ballparks.
Yes.
So certainly, I understand it. I get it.
Yeah.
And then Weisenhunt, I think I don't know. Maybe I just don't know enough about him. What do you think about Carson Weisenhunt? I just feel like I would rather have Luciano still. I'd rather have.
I love.
Maybe I wouldn't Walker Martin, maybe, but so maybe he isn't too far down. But you like him?
I love Carson Weisenhunt. Yeah. Came out of SC. All he did last year was, dominate. 58 and 2/3 with 83 strikeouts. 102 whip. And I think there's a really good chance that this kid ends up being like a legit number 2 and probably right behind Harrison at number 1. And I like him a lot. 2 lefties, 1 and 2, which I hate being a Dodgers fan. I do not look forward to seeing those two once they are applicable. So,
and they're both ready.
Very talented. Yes,
they're
exactly.
very, very close. So I get liking that for sure. So I'll have to dive into Weisenhunt a little bit more. He just kind of has slipped through the cracks for me.
He's got a great changeup. Fantastic change. Arguably the best changeup in the minors.
Left-handed changeups. I think I would like that. So
yeah.
Okay. Jung Hoo Lee, we saw him a little bit in the WBC. 6 years, $113 million, no joke. So he's going to get lots of playing time. Again, if I'm being honest, I don't know a ton about perhaps what to expect with him. Looking at his KBO, which again, it's not the Japanese league, so we got to be a little bit careful here. And these players are kind of missed. We've had some studs, don't get me wrong. High on base percentage guy. You're looking at, maybe 15 homers, maybe 10 stolen bases, I think, and kind of like a good on base percentage guy. So I don't know if you're excited about him for like first year player.
Probably
a bunch of other guys ahead of him,
but probably a much better real life baseball player than fantasy.
Yeah.
Which kind of sums up the Giants,
Yeah, I know you're right. Absolutely. It's just hard to hit for power at this part.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
50 degrees in July.
Yeah. So, I really like Bryce Eldridge. I think that, the two-way stuff or not, it's kind of exciting. So he's a guy that I would kind of, if there's a guy that can do it, it's, besides Ohtani, it might be Eldridge. I think he has the best chance to actually like get away with it. Walker Martin, I also like quite a bit. Would you take Walker Martin or Jung Hoo Lee in a first year player draft? What do you think?
I would take Martin.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, Grant McCray, I've always kind of liked. He's filling out. He's getting some power. He's a very slow progression up to the big leagues. He's going to be in Double-A probably for the majority of this year. Seems like he's taking a full season at each level, but he's doing all right at each level, striking out a little bit too much for a guy that doesn't have like superpower. But Bunch of okay guys here. I don't know, like fantasy wise, I'm not really investing in anybody besides Harrison and probably now Weisenhunt. I probably need to get on board with that. But I'm not going to go out and spend even for Eldridge or McRae or any of these guys because I just don't see fantasy written over these. Even Hayden Birdsong, like he could be a bullpen guy. There's just not a lot of fantasy.
Eldridge is available in the first-year player draft this year, correct?
Correct. So would you take Eldridge or Walker Martin?
Ooh, I'd probably take Eldridge. I like his power. He just seems like a better athlete, and like you said, in our league in the Zhao Dynasty, like for example, when one of our fellow owners drafted Shohei, he got the full Monty. He got the offense and the defense. Yeah. So in our league, Eldridge would be quite valuable if he indeed ended up being a true two-way player.
Absolutely, yeah. But I just can't bet on that. So my point is I wouldn't invest like a top 10 or 15 pick on him. No. He's a second round first year player guy.
Yeah.
Somebody that you could probably snag in that round pretty easily. I mean, this is a deep draft. I can't wait to go over this because I'm looking at, if I'm at, like I said earlier, and we'll finish with this for the podcast. Like if I'm 1 through 6, I'm happy because no matter who I'm getting, Langford, Yamamoto, Jenkins, Skeens, Cruz, Shaw, Matt Shaw, Cubs,
stud,
stoked about all that. Then if you tell me, okay, back half of the draft, you're going to get Waldrep, Tommy Troy, Max Clark, DeVries, Kyle Teal, Colt Emerson.
Love
I'm
Teal.
all good with that. So like any first round pick is just legit
money
because somebody's going to do something stupid and like pick
Jung
Lee and like or whatever.
Yeah,
exactly. And then in the second round, we still haven't, Aiden Miller, Noble Meyer, Arjun Ramala, George Lombard Jr., Bryce Eldridge, Cole Carrig, we just mentioned, Dylan Head, Walker Martin.
Yep.
Nolan Schnoll, who, by the way, has big league experience for the Angels.
Yeah, by the way.
Dolander, we talked about. First, second. I mean, go get a second round pick. Go get somebody. So I have one right now. I'm going to go accept it. Ty France. Ty France for 2 second round picks.
Boom, done.
I'm going to go do that.
I'm going to do that too. Good idea. Yeah. Good thinking, Alex.
So get second round picks right now because they're going to, and people are going to fall too. You're telling me in some leagues like Colt Emerson is going to just fall to the second round for whatever reason? Like it's just a random name. I don't think he should, but obviously, but like
but he will.
Yeah, somebody
he could. He very well could.
Anyway, we'll get into that. That's the preview. Let's go ahead and let the listeners go on with their day. They don't need to spend the entire day with us. But we're excited to be back. So we're sorry it ran a little long today. Oh my God, it ran long. So appreciate if you listen to this entire thing so far. Sorry again for the Giants making you listen to all the other teams you hate first in order to get to our team. But we're back and we're still figuring things out. So we'll get our timing back, just like in the spring training games. We don't come out first game and feel ready. But we're there to go. Nate, it's good to have you back. This is Futures Focus.
Likewise.
My name's Alex Sanchez. We'll be back as soon as possible to continue on with the NL Central, NL East, and the rest of the divisions, top 50 for Prospects 1500. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon.